You can talk about the job market. The one thing that we have to really talk about is the affordability. You have so many things that are stacked against you now. You have job market and you have affordability. Those two go hand in hand.
Welcome back. If you're concerned about keeping your job, you are not alone. Job loss anxiety is rising for some in the American workforce. This is according to a new survey out this morning from Bankrate. 27% of workers are more worried about the security of their job now than they were back in January. But one generation is more concerned than the rest. Bankrate senior economic analyst Mark Hamrick is here to talk about which generation and why that is. Good morning, Mark.
Now, before I start letting them talk, we already seen in the past several years, probably the last 4 years, massive layoffs, people just being cut from their jobs, losing pensions. We had truck companies, Yellow, and all of them go out of business. It was a whole fleet line. You're seeing so many people lose their jobs to the point when you're going out here in the workforce, you tend to have that feeling of anxiety of thinking, yo, I might not be able to last long here, so I got to start counting my ducats. I got to start saving my money. Every check I get. I'm just saying.
Why are more people worried now than in January?
I'm sure various individuals there all have their own unique reasons, at least to some degree, for feeling more anxious. But it is interesting in the sense that this anxiousness prevails more predominantly among millennials, as well as those who are making under $50,000. We also see a political sort of bent to it, where this concern about job security rising has become more so for Republicans. Or rather, I should say, for Democrats than Republicans, and more so for independents than Republicans. When we think back about where the job market was a couple of years ago, it was widely described as red hot when we saw the nation's unemployment rate in the mid 3% range, historic.
Now, when he talked about the economy was red hot, remember, before the pandemic, jobs was not the best, but they were still progressing. People were still able to climb up the ladder. People was able to leave jobs and resign and go somewhere else. And then all of a sudden, the world shut down. When the world shut down, and then when it opened back up, it was a hot market. A hot market for a good, year and a half. And then all of a sudden, everything just started going downhill because the cost of everything was so, it was just too high. The cost of revenue, like the put out for supplies, was just so high, and the pay went up. And when the pay go up, people start thinking, oh, wait a minute, I can ask for more money. Well, it turned around to be the worst decision because people started making way more money, and then the profitability shot down. And this is where we at now.
Low. And in a way, that was a suboptimal situation in the sense it was also associated with high inflation. And so what we've seen since then is that the job market is normalized. It hasn't fallen out of bed, but job search times are taking longer. And obviously people are feeling less secure about where they are with their jobs.
That generational divide is interesting to me. Why is it that my generation, I guess I'm a geriatric millennial, why are we more concerned about job security now? I guess that's people from early 30s to mid to late 40s.
Well, we live in, I don't have to tell anybody this, but it bears underscoring, and that is we live in highly volatile, dynamic times, and the pacts that existed to some degree between employers and employees decades ago have largely ceased to exist. That was somewhat associated with unionization, where that was a more prevalent factor in our society. It wasn't that unusual for people to spend many years with one employer, and of course that has gone by the wayside. And
you know what's funny you say that? When you look at the massive layoffs that happened, I'm gonna say political base in some sense. When the president first took position, one of the things that you started noticing, he started slashing a bunch of jobs in government. I have a relative that ended up being They end up going through it. But when I say they went through it, they was forced into retirement. So it's actually a benefit for them. But for many, it's not a benefit because you're seeing more and more companies follow suit, except they're not government. You're seeing it happen with Microsoft. Microsoft did a major layoff. Google, we already know about the Google. Google did a couple. We had UPS, did 2 of them that I know of. And then they just did, they just laid out another incentive for people to take away in UPS. That was the third. But their third was actually a payout of people that's able to resign or leave, and they get compensated, I guess, every year they worked there or something like that. And then when you look at other companies that we don't hear about, I seen a plant somewhere in Atlanta that shut down. They just up and shut down, and they didn't give employees any type of knowledge that they was shutting down. They just showed up and was not able to report inside the building. So when you look at jobs, why people not staying longer, jobs are not looking to keep people long term no more. I don't know why. Well, we understand that the longer you stay somewhere, the pay goes up. So seniority is out the window. Look like seniority is frowned upon today.
So you really are sort of out there to fend for yourself. And younger workers, both members of Generation Z as well as millennials, are those, fortunately, in the best position to improve their lot. That's the good news. And perhaps seize upon opportunities in this innovative, dynamic workforce. And so I don't want to be, let's say, discouraging people in the current environment. I think there's tremendous opportunity out there, but perhaps we just need to level set our expectations to think about the fact that this isn't the job market of a few years ago.
Right.
And we're still at a 4.1% unemployment rate.
Well, Mark, folks again.
Now, I get what he's saying. You have to be optimistic. Like, you have to actually have in your mind that, things are going to get better. But this is the problem. Much as you can talk about the job market, the one thing that we have to really talk about is the affordability. You have so many things that are stacked against you now. You have job market and you have affordability. Those two go hand in hand. When you cannot afford things and you worry about the job market, what you think is going to happen? People are now at a point now where as though they're losing hope because the jobs are not paying what they used to. They're not even keeping employees long term like they used to. And then when you turn around and you look at that, you're looking at people being able to buy, the buying power. Buying power have turned the tables over on people. To the point where as though you're looking at jobs now, how much can I make starting off? When you're looking at what you can make starting off, you're already starting off backwards. But the problem with that is jobs already know that you're holding people at a standstill. When you're paying them lower wages, you're looking at the lower wages and you're saying to yourself, we can keep them stagnated. That's what jobs are doing now. They're keeping people stagnated. They're keeping them in the same position. Whereas though if you're paying a person just enough for them to stay put, whereas though if they start looking for other jobs, they might not be able to make what they're making, but they're not making more going to the next job. And then if they do go to the next job and they make a little more, their commute might be far way longer than what it takes them to get to work. Like, you got to look at the pros and cons to the job market today. You got to look at the travel, and you also got to look at how long can you be able to sustain that type of job. That's why the job market is so bad right now, because jobs are up and moving. They're getting rid of people left and right. It's like, what are you going to do? You are basically in a bad, you're stuck in a hard place where it's kind of hard to maneuver these days. Best of luck. All right.